Good evening, and you're very welcome to the podcast for the League of Ireland Women's Premier Division here on FinalWhistle.ie with, of course, myself, Breifne Earley Aaron Clarke, and joining us this week, because it's a kind of a special international week, we added a bit of international flavour to it. We're getting the girl from the city of the Tribes, Meabh de Burca, a former Irish international herself, of course, well known to anyone who's following the women's national team or the League of Ireland over the last decade or so. Meabh, very welcome for coming back and joining us. First time this season. We normally have you on once or twice a year, so thank you very much for joining us. How have you been since we last saw you?
Yeah, all good. Can't complain now. Eventful international break and a really exciting start to the Women's Premier Division season. So yeah, I'm sure we have plenty to talk about.
Yeah, Aaron, of course, you're with us every week, but how has your week been? You've been to Greece, bit of a trek to the Aegean Sea.
Yeah, a bit of a trek is probably a bit of a nice word. If only the game had been next month, I could have got a direct flight over and back. Nearly missed the flight home actually on the way back from Crete. We were delayed coming through Frankfurt on the way home, and literally only got to our boarding gate just as our plane was about to start boarding for the second one. But listen, I can't complain. The interesting thing is, you've missed this podcast for the last week. Couldn't even get the introduction perfect this week.
I know, yeah. I thought something was going wrong as I was hitting the go live button, so I was a bit distracted, so apologies. But the good news is, on the pitch over the last couple of days, it's been relatively positive news for Ireland. Meabh, we might start with you. Your thoughts. We ended up winning out 4-0 on last week on Thursday or Friday, I can't remember, Friday night, and we finished up 2-1 last night against Greece. Even though we won the two games, are we happy? Are we a bit disappointed? Are we a bit concerned?
It's hard to really know how to feel, to be honest. Like, to come away with 6 points having not played particularly well is probably a huge positive, or it is a huge positive. And from that point of view, definitely good to get over the line in the two games. But yeah, obviously lots of question marks too at how we performed in the first half away, and then also last night how we kind of left it to become quite nervy at the end. I think a game that we dominated completely from start to finish, really. And, Greece didn't really offer a whole lot, to be honest. Their ranking, I know, is quite low, 61st, but it probably is pretty reflective of where they are. I don't think they will trouble Slovenia. I know we're hoping for them to do a favour against Slovenia, but I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, overall, a bit of a mixed emotions after it. Definitely lots of positive signs. Good to see girls getting minutes that mightn't always get minutes, and a lot of them did themselves did themselves plenty of favors and no harm over the two games.
Aaron, you were at both games as well. Your thoughts?
I'm warming to Carla Ward quite a lot. And for one of the reasons is she's actually honest when things don't go right or things don't go wrong. And the players are speaking in a way that they're not afraid to say, yeah, we got this wrong or we did this wrong. And I like that sort of approach. And I think we probably look at Ireland when you're drawn in this sort of group thinking you're going to fly through this group, you're going to get through this group handy. But and Carla said a little bit about the hurt that's there from not qualifying for that Euros, that loss to Wales. I think that's been evident when you look back to Friday evening. To me, the first half was so sort of chalk and cheese to the game in Coper, in the sense of they looked as though they were going to be torn apart at centre at defence every time they went forward. Anytime Greece kicked the ball forward, it was a counter attacking. Greece probably should have scored once or twice in that first leg, and second half was the first game. Second half was much better from Ireland than the first game. Obviously scoring the goals. The question that was coming out of it is how much do Ireland need Katie? That was the question that was always going to come out where they're coming off the bench. Then the second game, take the lead early on. You're probably thinking, okay, probably the best we've started under Carla Ward. First half, they were decent. They weren't amazing, but they were decent. They were going forward a lot. Then a little bit of that maybe is a lack of concentration. Is it nerves? Is it? And then when they let Greece in, there's no doubt for me over the two legs, Greece probably deserved a goal. Probably should have had one or two in the first leg, but on the first game. But listen, it's only the second camp. They're playing a different style of football. The one thing I will say, and it's no disrespect or discredit to either Vera or to Eileen Gleeson, but it's good to see Ireland going away from the back five. and just sitting in so deep. It's nice to see them trying something different. If it's going to work in the long run, still not 100% sure yet, but it's nice to see Ireland trying something different. I think we need to talk about the penalty.
Let's start with Friday night first. We'll come to the penalty last night because obviously we all have our thoughts on that. But let's talk Friday, and let's start before the game happened at all. Selection on Friday night. Some kind of, I know we were chatting about it via text, Aaron. There's a couple of head scratchers in there in terms of maybe players' form, players getting picked maybe on reputation rather than form at the moment. Your thoughts on maybe who was lucky to be in? Did she get it right?
I don't think she got it right on Friday, and I'll be out straight with you. The two subs she made at half time on Friday when she took Toland and Campbell off, I'm surprised to see both of them in the starting lineup again this week. I thought Shiva done well when she came on Friday. Katie was very good when she came on. I thought in the second half, the likes of Jessie Stapleton, you could see why she stuck a lot of faith in Jessie, and she's talked an awful lot about Jessie about being this leader, and like for years I've sort of thought Jessie could be the sort of player who may captain Ireland down the line, and could be the sort of youngster that you look and say she might get 100 caps. You can see why has that sort of faith, but like I think the biggest one from a lot of people is Katie not playing. Some people are asking, was it really managing minutes, or was it a case of she didn't want to start her? But it's one of them that, like, when you look at the pre-match, the match day -1 on Thursday, they done the first bit of the warm-up, Katie done it, and then all of a sudden she sort of veered off a little bit to her right and was doing sort of sprints on the halfway line, doing stuff away from the group. So when she didn't start on Friday, to me it wasn't a massive surprise. The Heather Payne one, she trained fully on match day -1 Thursday, and then didn't feature Friday. But the FAI sort of said early on that she wouldn't, and then Emma Duffy was reporting yesterday that she was actually left off the team sheet yesterday by an administrative error rather than an actual injury, and she probably would have featured maybe for Ireland in that second half. But I think selection for Ireland is always an interesting one, and it's a case of sometimes you wonder what way managers are going to go, but in the first half against Greece, it definitely looked as though maybe she hadn't got it right.
Your thoughts, Maeve, on the personnel that's been used over the last couple of weeks, and who kind of stood up to the plate, and maybe who could we maybe have got a better option?
Yeah, I think, like you said there, Shiva, I think did very well, came on and kind of provided that energy and just that dynamic kind of movements in the final third, which are definitely necessary to break a team, especially like Greece down that, are sitting in predominantly for a lot of the game. I thought at times, before Shiva came on, we were just very sort of you could tell what we were about to do before we did it even, and Greece definitely were able to cope with it a lot better. But yeah, she did well, I thought. Like you already said, Jessie Stapleton I think did very well, but it's just an area that we're so stacked in that it's hard to even say who our two best centre backs is, because if you think about it, even the likes of Louise Quinn isn't available at the moment through injury. Megan Campbell, if Katie McCabe is fit, Katie could possibly play left back. Megan Campbell could slot in left-sided centre back where she plays with her club. We have Caitlin Hayes, who I rate very highly, who isn't getting a look in at the moment. And yes, it's just that area of the pitch in particular is very strong, I think. And then maybe in other areas mightn't have as much of options.
Speaking of picking up, just something May have said there, Breifne. Megan Campbell probably hasn't played as most amount of football she's played for Ireland in the last 18 months. She was due to start centre back in that second game in Slovenia, pulled out in the warm up. But the interesting one on for me is the Caitlin Hayes situation, for the simple fact that even in Coper when Megan Campbell pulled out, she didn't look to Caitlin Hayes. She didn't look to Jessie Stapleton in that game. She looked to Megan Connolly to fit in at centre back. And like the other side of it, when you look at Ireland right now, is the question I would ask is, if Louise Quinn is fit, is Louise Quinn getting back into that side? I'm not 100% sure, based off of the way Ireland are playing right now, that Louise Quinn is getting back into that Ireland side.
Yeah, it's a hard one to call because, she was such a mainstay in the team, and had it not been for the injury, we wouldn't even be probably having this conversation. To be honest, she just would have continued, because I know for a fact when you're in the team, it's a lot harder to get knocked out of the team than to get back in. It's a tough one, but yeah, it's a call that Carla's going to have to make. I'm sure she'll come back into the squad. Just I think she deserves that at least. And then it's going to be a matter of, I'm sure she has to build up her minutes at Birmingham and get back up to how she was before the injury, because it's quite a lengthy injury. It's not like she's just been out for a couple of months. So that will, time will only tell really with that one. And then of course you have the debate of Ruesha Littlejohn and Tyler Toland. I think Ruesha is ahead there. I personally think if she's fit and able to go, but then you have obviously the issue if she can't play 290 minutes across international window too. It's such a vital area of the pitch, and that's the holding mid spot, that it's not one that you'd want to keep changing unless you have to. So lots of it's supposed to good headaches in a way for Carla Ward, because she has options even in terms of Amber Barrett's done well coming off the bench. I thought her goal on Friday was really, really good. She took it so well. Like, even at the same time, she was saying Denise O'Sullivan was screaming at her to pass it, but you always want your striker to take it on. And Amber was actually delighted, particularly on her 50th cap. Just it's been a long road for Amber. Like, for some people, the 50 caps might come easier than others, and for her, she's definitely had to work for them. I think only 15 of her caps have been from start. So she's had to make do up in that impact sub, and it's not one that as a striker she probably always wouldn't be happy enough with that. So it was good to see her in from the start as well yesterday. And yeah, it's just hard to know what her best 11 is and how that looks when everyone's available. We'll just have to wait and see.
Leanne Kiernan playing out wide on the right both evenings. Is that the best place for her? Would she be more, I suppose, beneficial to the team down the centre, or maybe in a deeper role? Because she just didn't seem to have that final product in terms of crosses and helping the team and creating opportunities for the players, where she seemed to just be more direct. Whereas Heather would normally be an awful lot kind of wider and more focused on getting the ball into the players in the middle. Your thoughts on whether Leanne maybe can play that role? I know you've also praised Shiva for the first game, and I thought she was class when she came on Friday night. I was a little bit disappointed in terms of her input last night. I thought maybe she seemed to nearly pass the ball back more often than forward, or she lost the ball a couple of times, and it just seemed that she was struggling to get with the pace of it last night from the start.
Yeah, she did definitely agree that she had a much bigger impact on the game on Friday than she did last night. She nearly just blended in, didn't stand out going forward at all. And yeah, going back to Kiernan, I think she had a good spell in the first game, just those few minutes after half time, when probably everybody on the pitch had a good spell. To be honest, she whipped a few good balls in and definitely caused danger. But aside from that, yeah, I thought, at times maybe her decision making and that she was cutting in a lot. Obviously, she cut in to create the free kick, which the ref gave as a penalty and that. But yeah, she cut in for that. But sometimes maybe you'd even wonder, could she play off the left as well, and as an inverted winger, come in and get a couple of shots off? Because I don't think when she comes in onto her left, it's probably not her strongest aspect of the game. And it's hard to know, because yeah, if you have Carusa and Amber up there too, neither of them are particularly comfortable. We saw Carusa definitely can't play out wide. I don't think she played there against Slovenia away, and it just did not work at all. Amber possibly can, just given her pace. So yeah, it would be nice to see Leanne maybe even come on and come through the centre, especially with her pace. It could be something that defences would have to deal with.
I don't think she fits into an Ireland system as a 9. The way Ireland play, I don't think she fits into the Irish system as a 9.
Does she fit in as that 10 that Shiva was trying to play last night?
Potentially. It'd be one of them that you would like to see her have a run at. I don't think as an out-and-out 9 she'd probably fit in there. I think coming wide, I get what you're saying. Like, she done well, obviously, to win the penalty. Even when you're talking about even taking her off at half-time, like, if you're going to take any of the wingers off last night, for me, I'd have taken Lucy Quinn off. And like, even the one thing I noticed last night, when it comes to the likes of Lucy, is having no left foot, being out on the left side, constantly cutting in onto the, stopping to go back to the right or cutting around. Like, it's one of them that the wingers for Ireland are going to be key the way Carla wants to play, if she wants to play the 4-3-3. So finding the right wingers is going to be crucial. And like, Heather Payne probably hasn't played as much further forward for her in the last couple of years. Breifne probably more played as a wing back. But I definitely get what you're saying in terms of, if you're going to have somebody fully fit on that right side, I would definitely have Heather there. I'd love to see Leanne probably try on the left and see see that opportunity. Can she cut inside? Because the thing about Leanne is, I don't think we've ever seen the best of Leanne Kiernan playing for Ireland. I don't know whether it's a confidence issue playing for Ireland, but like you see what she does for Liverpool when she's fully fit. She's superb for Liverpool, and it just never seems to fully translate into Ireland. And you could sort of turn around and say it's a bit of the Amber Barrett effect in the sense of how many times does she start games or does she come off the bench? Like when you look at even the likes of Amber, how much she comes off the bench, it can be hard to come into games, especially sometimes when they are coming into games, and then when you get that opportunity to impress, it maybe doesn't necessarily happen. Like the one thing that I think nobody's really talked about is this next camp is going to be very interesting to see what way it's going to go about, because the fact that the group isn't decided on goal difference, this group is decided on head to head. So, which pretty much means that
we have to beat
we're going to have to go to Turkey and win. But if we don't beat Slovenia then by five goals, or if we beat them 4-0 and then it's going to go down to goal difference, it's one of them that you sort of look upon and think it's going to be difficult. And if you don't finish first in that group, if you finish second, going into that playoff against the third place team in League A, it's going to be very difficult. And I think the USA games, I understand as well why they could also be important as well to play more games together. And the biggest consensus I get from the camp and from speaking to players is the more time they're spending on the training pitch, they're understanding what Carla wants or what way they want to play and what way they want to do things. Like the biggest takeaway, I'd say, probably from this camp was the fact that they'd scored 2 goals in 2 set play routines. Both of them are set play routines that they scored the 2 headers from, and they're talking about the things they've worked on coming through to fruition. And like even some of the things that has been said over this, and like I spoke to Amber, which will come out on her socials tomorrow, and she sort of said to me about Ireland needing to get back to that identity where they were causing havoc from set plays, where they've maybe gone away from that a little bit.
Have we been distracted by Megan Campbell's long throw? Because yeah, it's a weapon, but it's a weapon when you use it sparingly. When we use it every single throw in the last quarter of the field, it kind of becomes relatively routine to deal with. We haven't really threatened from one of them in a long time.
I have an alternative question, and this will add to that. How many long throws per game can Megan do? Because you seen yesterday, she done a couple early in the first half, and then she wasn't even going over for the other ones. She wasn't. It looked as though she may not have 10, 11, 12 in her locker. She may only have 3, 4 in her locker. But like the one thing, and I'd be interested to see from your point of view, Maeve, like the one thing I'd noticed, and I noticed the same on Friday as well, is that the Greeks were fully prepared. They had 11 players in the box. They had nobody outside the box for the long throws from Megan, and they were fully prepared to actually just get ahead on it and get away.
Yeah, if only they were as prepared from corners. Like Anna Patton wasn't even marked. I rewatched it a couple of times and they marked other players, and just she had the easiest probably goal she'll ever get. She just sailed in and glanced it into the net. But yeah, I think definitely Megan's throws. I think a big thing is actually the run up and the space of the run up. Because in Tala last night, there was advertising hoardings that aren't usually there. I don't know why or how it was agreed to have them there, but obviously on that side with the dugouts, she didn't have enough of a run up. So her throw-ins were only just about getting to the edge of the 6-yard box, whereas when she ran from the other side, they were hitting almost, it was about a yard off the penalty spot, which is why I'm not sure why she wasn't taking them from the right in the first half, because there was the longer run up. Obviously, you have to get across the pitch and get back as well. That could have been a factor. Just
on that, them advertising hoardings are now going to be they're there for every Shamrock Rovers game, so it's now going to be a case that they're there for every game, and you're 100% spot on. And like even on Friday, you could see she struggled to even get any sort of run up for the throw-ins on Friday because the dead ball line was so close. Like I don't know if you've noticed where the players come out of the tunnel at half time on Friday. It's behind the goal. There was literally like they lifted up a piece of plastic, and the players come out up a few steps, and then like there's literally a concrete yoke about a foot away from the pitch, and it was one of them that it's a real composed, compact. Like the problem with Campbell's long throw-ins is, as you say, is Breifne, we haven't threatened probably from them for a long time, and the one thing I will say is I thought some of our dead balls from her feet were very, very good last night from Megan, and the delivery for the goal was superb.
Yeah. I was more impressed with the delivery from dead balls than I was from the throw-ins last night. I think, and we've talked this at length, it's not a tactic I like It's not an attractive tactic. It used to be kind of. Have we ever actually scored from one?
Oh yeah, we scored 2 against Germany at home.
I was literally about to say.
I remember
to say that.
Yeah, Louise Quinn and Steph Roach, and we equalised in the, I'd say, 89th minute, but I won't talk about what happened in that at time. But yeah, we've scored a few, all right, but not.
But it's been a while.
Yeah, it has. I'm trying to think. I think we scored one relatively recently, but I can't recall now off the top of my head.
Let's take a quick look, just because you mentioned it there, but all the permutations for where we are in the next stage. If we take a quick look at the league table, you'll see there we are 3 points behind Slovenia. We'd both be expected to beat Turkey and Greece in the next round of games, and then we face off against each other. So as you mentioned, Aaron, we have to cover that 4-goal gap. So as long as we match what they do in the next game, it'll still be that 4-goal gap that we need to beat. The goal difference is quite healthy from our point of view if we cover that 4-goal spread, because it wouldn't turn it around if we can match them in the next game. We'd need to do that as well. Otherwise, that 5-0 becomes 6-0 or 7-0 if we don't put enough goals past Turkey.
Well, 5-0 is 5-0. If we beat Turkey 1-0, if we beat them 5-0, it'll be irrelevant then, because we'd have the head-to-head on it. It's only the only way goal difference comes into play is if we only beat them 4-0. But the thing about it is, like, if you ask the players, like, I'd say the players aren't even thinking about that right now. And like, I know we're going to say yes, we should be back in League A. We need to be back in League A. But the biggest thing you'd like to see is the reset, because we've quite a lot of older players in this squad. A lot of the players who maybe after the next World Cup campaign probably might not even be around. Like you even look at players like Caitlin Hayes, 29. There's a lot of older players in this squad.
You're retiring players now, Aaron. Yeah.
No, I'm not. But like the thing is, we have to also look at these next generation of players that are coming through. Like, we've got some smashing younger players who are coming through the scene. Like the likes of your Leah O'Leary's, the likes of your Kate Thompsons, your Jess Fitzgerald. These sort of players where you will probably see a lot of these sort of making their way into the senior ranks within the next 18 months. And I think the best thing that we can see from Carla Ward is that no matter who you are, what league you're playing in, she's still willing to actually do her research and do her understanding about her. Like, and there was a lot of talk about previous managers about how the League of Ireland was sort of not necessarily cared upon or pushed upon. Like, Carla has openly said the League of Ireland needs to improve, but she's fully aware that there is great players in the League of Ireland, and she's not afraid to pick them. Like, Alex Kavanagh would have been in that squad for the first Greece game had she not been injured. She's talked about other players being in there, and like, I wouldn't be surprised to see more and more League of Ireland home-based players sort of getting that looking or getting that opportunity. And I think we need to sort of be realistic in where Ireland are at the minute. Like, yes, probably last year we bet France and Páirc Uí Chaoimh, but there's a lot has happened since then, and there's still a lot of changes going on within women's football in the country. And like, we need to be realistic.
How much of that is a media soundbite and how much of it is actually real? Because let's be honest, we had 3 players in the squad. I don't know if you can really include what's her name in this conversation, Roisha, because she's just come back. Do you know what I mean? Now, okay, fair enough, she hadn't been actively playing with a club for a couple of months, so there's a bit of a time delay in there from her last involvement in English league soccer. But she's come from that world. She hasn't just got on the return ticket from the English league that we all love so much for the Irish players going over there. But Alex Kavanagh, unused sub down near the bottom of the substitutes list on last night. Same for Avian Clancy. Are they there as an extra body or two just so she can have that soundbite and make it look well?
No.
Or do you feel as genuine?
No,
motivation?
and do you know why they're not there? They're not there as soundbites? Because unlike the previous 2 managers who are calling in 27, 28 players, Carla Ward is calling in 23 players. So she's only calling in the minimum that she's allowed to bring in to travel to play. She's not bringing in these players just say have a 26, 27 player where they're just going to sit in the stand. And to me, if that was the case, I would 100% sort of say, is that potentially what's happening? And I would probably say, yes, maybe it is. But the fact that she's bringing them in within that 23 player squad means that you're not going to bring someone into that 23, because think about it, you take 3 goalkeepers out, you've got 2 players for every position. Like, I don't think she would risk that if she was only bringing in 23 players.
Yeah, right. Going back.
Go ahead.
don't know. I'd say going back to my time, like the match day squad was 18. So I suppose I would still see when you're picking 23, you kind of have your 3 players, outfield players there, aren't going to step on the pitch probably, and there's a bit of scope for it. But yeah, I mean, it is hard to know, because obviously with injuries then as well, you're putting yourself under pressure too, or under needless pressure maybe as well. The
cynics might also say that the FAI might not want to pay for a couple of extra people on these trips as well. People who are around the game a long time. It wouldn't be unheard of to reduce costs in that manner.
But the other side of it is, though, Breifne, it's a case of literally a ticket from Ireland to England, because they're going on charter flights anyway, in the sense of everything else the Ireland team do, it's charter in, charter out. So it's not even a case of, if she wanted to bring 28 bodies, it's only you're paying for a couple extra hotel rooms. And like, I get from the conversations I have with her, and I've spoke to her a couple of times, even when the cameras aren't rolling, like I get the sense that she understands the job that needs to be done with Ireland. And that's the thing I get. She understands what needs to be done, what needs to happen. Is that saying that it's going to be a success for Carla Ward? No, there's no given that she is going to be successful and she is going to get us the qualification. And who knows, if she doesn't, the FAI are going to say, hold on a minute, let's change the manager again. But the other side of it is since we've qualified for the World Cup, after that World Cup campaign is finished, we've obviously let go of Vera. They've now let go of Eileen. Like, they've introduced a strategic plan that has no detail. Like, there's a lot in terms of women's football going on at the minute that there is questions to be answered for, and I fully understand why you are asking that question. Are they there just because of that? I get it, and I fully understand why that question. And a lot of people are probably asking the exact same question as that you've asked.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that's my opinion, but I'm just asking the question as devil's advocate, because a lot of people would be of that mind when it comes to anything that comes out of the FAI in some respects. Let's chat about the next 2 games, because we do have this opportunity. We play Turkey in May, and then a couple of days later we have that home game against Slovenia, where we know we have to win a minimum of 5-0 really to go through. Can we do that, Meabh? Is that possible?
I mean, I'm forever the optimist, to be honest, when it comes to international games. So I would say but I mean, even Turkey away is a difficult one. Given the fact that we did struggle only to beat them, obviously 1-0 at home. So that in itself is going to be a challenge. And then 5 goals it's a tough ask. It is. Obviously we put 4 past Greece, so you can say it's achievable. But just a lot of things, everything would have to go right on the night. You need a big, huge Cork roar, I think, every time the girls will be on the ball, because that's going to be a tough one. And it's not like, we're not playing the likes of Greece or playing Slovenia, who obviously would have their own, like a draw would do them perfectly fine too. So that's a tough call, I think, or a hard ask. But like that, at least we have the backup of the playoff too. And another couple of games at that level mightn't be the worst thing either. And it would be great, though, to get back up to League A, because even in terms of obviously the quality of the games would improve, but also then just the spectacles as well, and attracting bigger crowds to games. Just the likes of Greece, Slovenia, Turkey, you're not going to attract fair weather fans at those, whereas the big names we had in League A, you could obviously see such a big improvements in the attendances and bigger occasions. Like, we struggled to get, there wasn't even 6,000 there last night, which you can't. I mean, people are have to pay obviously as well, and if you're paying, obviously when it's a higher ranked team, you're seeing a lot better quality on the pitch too from the opposition.
Yeah, but Meabh, you're saying that in like 6,000 people at a women's international game, like, you remember the nights in Richmond Park, you remember the nights in the old UCD.
Oh, definitely.
Like, the gate was just open, and whoever wanted to wander in could wander in. Like, it was like, you knew everybody at the games. Everybody knew everybody at the games. There was maybe 200 or 300 people, 90% of them friends and family. Oh,
definitely. Yeah, if we're comparing from the times we're in now to the past, it's definitely polar difference. But I suppose just the difference, even in terms of just League A and League B, such a huge difference just in terms of literally just the opposition, because they obviously bring the crowds in as well. When you have the big names, the big countries, they definitely bring in a bigger crowd.
I won't name the person, but a friend of mine who I was in Slovenia with, and when we walking out of the stadium in Slovenia, he turned around to me and said to me, "We'll beat Slovenia 5-0 at home." And he said the same thing to me last night as well. And there is optimism in terms of it is possible. Like everything that went wrong the first time went wrong, but like you've said something there, Meabh, and I was going to ask this question to the both of you. When you look at the attendance last night, bringing that game to Porky Queeve in June, the secondary school kids will just be finished. A week before the leaving cert starts. Primary school kids will not be finished. Is it a much bigger gamble than we thought, based off of looking at what sort of crowd they got last night?
No, I think there'll be a really, really good crowd down there. I think the fact that it'll be a decider, which I think eliminates nearly all about the opposition. It's like it's a win or not. We go up or we don't. I think that's going to be a huge thing. But I think as well the novelty. And again, we were slagging you off air about being a dub and two cultures chatting to you. Like when those games come to town, parents, schools, clubs take that opportunity to get those kids involved. It's a novelty. It doesn't happen very often. Okay, it might happen twice in Cork, but when was the last time before that? It's been a long, long time. And you do have Cork interest there, through Megan, Denise, maybe even Mangan, Saoirse. Do you know what I mean? There's enough of an interest there locally to drive a decent crowd in there. Saoirse, of course, has a fairly good GA background as well, so there will be a profile, and I'd imagine you'll get a bigger crowd there than you did in Tala last night. It might not be full.
I'm struggling to see this game getting over 10,000-15,000.
But that's phenomenal.
But not really. It's 26,000 in Porky Queeve. You know what I mean? The French game.
Someone who's been on the field for that.
Like just before Meabh was in there, like as Meabh said there, a French game of Porky Queeve made perfect sense because of the opposition. Like no wonder it was always going to sell, and it's the first one. Does the second one sell? I'm not sure.
I know there's an argument for Turner's Cross as well. What's it, about 7,500 capacity? That absolutely full, and that atmosphere would be incredible. Whereas obviously, if you only have a half-empty, bigger stadium, the atmosphere isn't quite so big. But I think if we beat Turkey, it'll make it a lot easier to sell the tickets forward and to big it up as that game. But no, I wouldn't expect it to be near the France crowd. I mean, I was surprised in a way that it was going to be in Porky Queeve, just given that the other games were all in Tala, or the two games were in Tala. So yeah, I love to see it. I have to say, I love to see it being spread around. The hope would be that we'd have an international game, in the West at some point, whether that is a friendly or competitive game. But it'll still be. I think regardless, I think it'll still be a great atmosphere down there, and hopefully you can, like I said, it'd be incredible to get a big win like that. It would really, I think, would probably top the France result nearly, even though I know the France result obviously on paper is our best competitive result ever. But still.
I think I'm going to be confident on this. I think, to be fair, we've done a bit of FAI bashing at the top of the show, but I think the one thing they seem to have got really right over the last couple of years is the promotion, both domestically and internationally. And I think that's going to save the day. We might not sell out, but I think that number you mentioned, Aaron, I'd be quite happy with 15,000. I know it's not full, but 15 or 16,000 people in or more in Cork would be phenomenal in a couple of weeks.
Also, the other side as well is, and I know you don't like me saying this, there's also a cost element to it as well. And like I'd love nothing more than to walk into Porky Queeve on June the 3rd and see it sold out, because I will leave the capital that day. Don't worry. I will go down the country that day.
Just to put in the mind of the listeners or the viewers who are with us, just who we might face should we not pull off the greatest escape and get those 5 goals and see off Slovenia on the last day of the group. The teams we're likely to be in the draw against. So if we finish second in our group, we would face a promotion playoff against the teams that finished third in Group A. And at the moment, given where the tables are, there's a little bit of leeway in this, but you're looking at Austria coming out of Group 1 there. They can't catch the Netherlands ahead of them, but it's with them or Scotland, but Austria have advantage at the moment. Norway, Iceland, Switzerland. Wouldn't much mind Switzerland. Iceland, Norway might be a bit of a tough ask. Portugal or Belgium from Group 3, and then in Group 4, really it could be anybody, but most likely Italy or Denmark. Any of those would you like to face in a playoff?
I wouldn't rule the Welshies out. Two draws against
behind with 4 games.
Two draws against Sweden. Top team in that group. I wouldn't rule the Welsh out. I wouldn't rule the Welsh out. And to be honest with you, like there's some teams there that you're saying, like you probably want to avoid the likes of a Belgium, and Switzerland is probably your best. Yeah, probably your best one.
You don't want to be facing Norway either. Let's be
honest. Or Iceland either. But like these games won't be played in October. And like if you top that group, you have that October window to where you can probably play other players in friendlies and try players out. To whereas if you've got these 2 competitive games, you're going to have to go all guns blazing. And I don't know.
Maybe you've played against a few of these teams. You've played against a few of these teams. Obviously, times are different now, even 5 or 6 years later. Your thoughts on who you'd like if you could pick the draw, if you could gerrymander the draw?
Yeah, there's not a load of teams there that I'd be looking forward to playing. Obviously with the expectation of winning, but Austria, I suppose, would probably be the ones I pick out. Or Scotland even as well. But obviously we did have the playoff win against them, but that was we're always closely ranked. And I mean, Belgium they beat England yesterday, so I wouldn't want to be playing them either. Iceland beat us going back to the playoff way back in 2008, I think 2009. So yeah, they're all of those. To be honest, they're going to be tough games regardless. I don't think there's many standout ones there. Portugal as well, maybe would probably be one I'd prefer to play. Maybe Switzerland will have just come off the back of hosting the Euros as well, so they'll probably have a lot more experience after that too. So
yeah, look at you calling back games before Jesse Stapleton was probably born. It makes you feel old, I know. In terms of, we won't spend too much time talking about it because it's been talked about to death on all the other platforms, but the penalty, in or out, penalty or free kick, was it even a foul?
I don't know if you've seen the photo I posted on social media earlier. I posted a couple of the actual thing. It's probably about a foot outside.
Maeve, would you agree?
Yeah, I saw it once. It was outside. Definitely, there was no disputing it. I thought it was a free kick. Yeah, definitely. I thought there was contact, and but yeah, it was outside the box. But it's fine. That's fine. We all have the benefit of replays too. And would anyone have called it on the first time? We don't know. No, there wasn't a big gasp. We weren't sure. It looked very close. It looked really close. And the only thing from a ref's point of view, unless you know for sure, then it's hard to give it. But I think Amber did appeal it straight away. And in fairness to Leanne, she was very strategic in where she landed too.
Who made the decision? I don't think it was.
I think actually the lines person seems to have flagged it to the ref, as far as I'm aware, anyway. But it's probably.
I've just sent you the picture.
Once the lino kind of gives it, there's very little you can really do in terms of that.
It was. It's close.
You can comfortably see.
It's clear as day.
I'm actually going to just bring it in here. That's the wrong one. Hang on, let me see. Oops, I messed that up. But yeah, there is an image there where you can quite clearly see. Technology does not want to work for me today.
But I mean, that's we're seeing it after, but we did get the rub of the green. Definitely,
Yeah, it's very complicated. One final point on the internationals. How good was Sari for Greece? And she took her goal really, really well. Are we disappointed to concede one relatively straightforward, 20 yards out from goal, straight in front of the goals, and we're letting shots off like that?
Yeah, I mean, Toland was there and kind of stayed with her, and then just unfortunate that the ball to go through her legs. She tried to get the block in, and just Sari had that bit of class, and you could see it. It was kind of evident throughout the 2 games, but maybe just didn't have as much support. I think if she was in another international team, she'd be way up in terms of goals scored and assists and everything, because you could kind of see that quality. Even like that, she just shifted the ball onto her favoured left foot and just finished it. Didn't really give Brosnan any chance in the goal, and I think she's kind of a trailblazer really for Greece, because she is the first first Greek player to be playing in the WSL, and she's done it, with Brighton and now with Everton as well. And I'm sure she'll be reminding Courtney of that when they go back to the club this week.
Yeah,
the one thing I'd say on Greece is if Greece had a striker, the games would have been very interesting. If they had somebody who can or put the ball in the net with the chances they had in the first game, it would have been very, very interesting.
Yeah, because Papasiadora, the one of the strikers who you could just see, she was always playing with a smile on her face. She seemed to play with like so much freedom, but I think it was only her maybe fourth and fifth cap, and she's yet to score. So yeah, very kind of raw, I think. And yeah, some of them were inexperienced, and then others were very experienced. Like their captain came on, she's 37, in the hold and mid spot. So it's kind of, I think they're a team definitely, maybe not the all around package just yet.
The final question just on last night's game was 2-1 up against a team 20 points below us in the rankings. Team we were expected to beat reasonably comfortably. We beat 4-0 last week. They played the same team this week. We have more or less the same team on the pitch. And we substitute attacking player for a defensive player with a minute to go on the clock. Is that a worry that that's the kind of attitude that we have in a game that we should be just looking to kind of close out and dominate and maybe even add a third to?
Or let me add a second part to that. When you make that substitution, you get the ball and you're going straight to the corner.
Yeah, I mean, they did. We closed it out. Of course, it wasn't a position that we wanted to be in, and we wouldn't have imagined it before the game, especially off the back of that 4-0 win. But I think it's just how the game unfortunately ended up, and it did get quite nervy. And Greece, you could kind of see like that. If they just had one other opportunity, it could have ended up in the back of the net. And I think it was just a bit of game management smartness. I know Megan Campbell got carded, like she was time wasting. She threw the ball over the advertising hoarding. I thought she could have been maybe a little bit more subtle with her experience.
Stupid yellow card for me, that is, Meabh.
Oh yeah, I mean it is, especially if it's costly. If she was to pick one up against Turkey, that's the thing. And just with her experience, would have thought there was, she might have had another way of doing it. But look, it is what it is, and they got the win in the end. But yeah, going into the corner and like that, making defensive substitutions, you would have loved us to be in a position like that to bring on players who the likes of, even Aoibhinn Clancy or Alex Kavanagh, gives them 5 minutes at the end just to allow. But it wasn't a game for that. I don't think she could take the risk, and she did go on about saying 6 points was the goal at the end of the day.
In terms of the substitution, now, I know you would have seen it from the other side. TV cameras might not have picked it up. She did have Caitlin Hayes originally ready when she had brought on Saoirse. She had Caitlin ready at that stage, and then it was just literally last minute. Caitlin was not brought on. I think at that stage, if she had done the substitution, I think she was potentially going to have taken off one of the defenders, because they'd played a couple of sloppy passes. They'd looked a bit tired at the back, and I think that probably might have been the change she made. The one thing that I do think is, I definitely think Ireland did look tired in that last 20 minutes, and like it's a long travel, and like they're not necessarily used to playing in that sort of warmer weather, and like you would have that little bit of a concern, Breifne, in the sense of the shutting up shop. Was it a case of fatigue as much as anything else, that some of the players looked nearly out on their feet at that stage?
Yeah, maybe potentially. Let's turn our attention to the domestic stuff. And I suppose big news of the day, or the last couple of days, in the League of Ireland Women's Premier Division, Meabh, is the announcement of the Player of the Month award. And that's gone to your neck of the woods, Emma Doherty of Galway United. She has managed to take that award for the month. There must be a bit of pride down in Tribesville. I was going to call it, in the city of the tribes there, with that award. I know she's a Donegal girl, but very much a Galway United player. They must be quite happy with the start of the season. Third on the table, but a game in hand, which would see them go top if they were to take a point even off to Peamount in that game.
Only team with 100% record.
Yeah. Things all look pretty good in MDC Park.
Yeah, all positives to take. Obviously, it was great for Emma. 3 goals in as many games to start the season. There's a lot of I think strikers in the league are really seem to be on form early on in the league, and yeah, it's nice for her to get that, especially when kind of nearly is an award or for the team's performance in the first few games, like Aaron says. 100% record, and probably think even at this stage, it might even be Galway's to lose. I know it's very early on the season, and we all know that's a big statement to make. I know,
right there,
especially when they've never won the league, and obviously we love the label of underdogs. As I know for a fact, we prefer to be underdogs than favourites. But I think that's just testament to their performances on the pitch and how well they've been playing. I don't think. I think they've kind of looked a little bit unstoppable now. In fairness, that the game at hand is against Peamount, and we all know, the quality that they have had through the years as well. Obviously, they haven't had the best start. They'll be looking to improve on that, but definitely not a given. But I think, I really think that Galway will be right up there at the end of the season. I know, like in the end, they faded away just in the last couple of games last year, but I think if they can continue, especially I think with the goal scoring is obviously a huge part of it, and if we can keep Emma Doherty on form, it could go a long way.
The agent's got an interesting. You got the name of the TV show you're in, and yourself on the wall of every single dressing room for the rest of the year.
I've got an interesting one on this, Breifne. What would it mean though for Galway to say win a women's Premier Division for Galway football, not even just Galway United, because I've said for years that in order for the League of Ireland to be strong, we need a strong team in Limerick, a strong team in Galway, a strong team in Cork, and we need something more up slightly north in the likes of Dundalk. Like, what would it mean to have?
You better throw Sligo in there as well, Aaron.
For Galway.
You better throw Sligo in there as well.
Yeah, Sligo hours.
No, I think it'd be huge. Like we can see that loan. In fairness to them, like no one would have tipped them at the start of the last season. Now it seems like they're going to be always up there, thereabouts, and they've really built it from the ground up. And I think that's quite similar with obviously Galway WFC before Galway United. We see Galway United as a new team on paper, but the foundations were laid for the 9 seasons or 10 seasons before that. So definitely, I think it'd mean a lot to. I just think the Galway soccer community, like they're always trying hard. We had a forum there last week, just with all the grassroots clubs, the combination, the Galway FA and Galway United together combined, just to kind of brainstorm really on how best to go about trying to develop football in the West for both boys and girls from grassroots levels all the way up. And I think there's a lot of really passionate people and a lot of people who care about the game in the West. And I think it would be accumulation really of a lot of years work and a lot of obviously not all those players, like you already mentioned, didn't come through the Galway structures, and there are some foreign-based players and players from all around the country, the likes of Meabh de Burca and all that, but I think they're all coming together for kind of a common good, and in a way, and I think it would be really it would mean a lot. I think the last kind of obviously won the All-Ireland Cup, but the last time really had even the FAI Cup came back west was in 2007 when we won it. A long time now. We're nearly hitting 20 years, so it's a long time to wait. So hopefully, I mean, it's very early doors. I don't know if we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves, but obviously, it'd mean a lot for everyone, I think, in the West, definitely.
And in terms of the games this week, of course, we'll start with Galway because they obviously they play Wexford. Normally this would be a fairly tight game. Wexford probably would have shaded this over the years, but Galway now look to be in such fine form that they're probably the favourites to win that game.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely, I think like I said, just given their form last year and the start they've had to the season, I think they definitely go into it as favourites, whether they like it or not. They're favourites in that game, in my opinion, anyway. But Wexford they've had such tradition, and they're always a really, really tough team to play against. They still have quality in their ranks, and I think it'll still be a huge game. I don't think it's going to be any walk in the park by any means. I think it'll be a really tight game, but hopefully, I mean, obviously I'm biased. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Hopefully, Galway can get over the line in it, but it's going to be a tough one because, like you said, Wexford are always thereabouts, and I think they'll be looking to improve on where they are at the moment.
Aaron, 2 Dublin derbies for you to pick from: Peas and Shamrock Rovers in the Southwest Derby, Bows and Shells in the North Derby. Will you be at either one of them?
I will be at Bows and Shells because I'm going to go to DLR and Athlone on early Saturday afternoon, so I'll do a double header. Shamrock Rovers, Peamount Shamrock Rovers, Karen Duggan versus Rusha Littlejohn in the Battle of PRL, in the Battle of Green Oak. I think if the Peamount United side that showed up against Shells show up against Shamrock Rovers, they'll be there or thereabouts. I was chatting with Andy last night. We were on the way to Tala, and we were talking about Peamount. And we were talking about Mary Phillips. Mary Phillips has impressed me massively this season, starting regularly for Peamount, and even impressed with the Ireland under 19s as well. I think Peamount have enough quality to get 3 points out of this game. I really do. I think for Shamrock Rovers league title, if they want to really be class as league contenders, this is the sort of game they have to be winning. But I wouldn't be shocked if Peamount win this game. In terms of the other game, Shells have a massive loss with the fact that Noel Murray's suspended, having been sent off against Peamount before the international break. Alex Kavanagh obviously back fit for them is a positive. Don't think Rowan McLaughlin's going to be fit, which is a loss. Bows have never beaten Shells in the since they've come into the women's league. Is this going to be the first time? I'm not sure. I think we need to see the Bows performance against Wexford, that played against Wexford, to have any hope of getting anything out of that game. And like Wexford that you were just talking about a minute ago, Bows and Wexford is just starting the season off too inconsistent. It'd be difficult to see Bows getting something out of that game.
Meabh top team against bottom team at Lone travel to Carlisle grounds to play a DLR game, moved obviously from the bowl in UCD. Can we see anything except a continuation of form there at Lone to win that away? Is that likely?
Yeah, I think so. DLR have had a tough start. Obviously, no points in the first 4 games, but again, they have a good. I think they have a good structure behind them. It's just they're just not getting the results that on the pitch. And yeah, at Lone, I can't see anything, to be honest, other than at Lone winning that one.
2 other games, of course, as well. Then both in Munster, Treaty United versus Sligo Rovers in a battle that would have been seen as a basement battle in a couple of seasons ago. It's now a kind of top versus bottom as well. Again, Peamount or Treaty, should I say, could be top of the league there. Meabh, you're kind of close to that geographically. Treaty, Sligo Rovers, they're kind of both maybe an hour and a half either side of you. Thoughts of can Treaty push on? Can they really maintain this kind of push towards the top of the table?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they're doing well. Obviously, Ciara McCormack having come in there, actually saw at the game last night, and the likes of Mary Curtin there as well, kind of are providing doing a lot of work in the background really to push it on. And Treaty have had such a good start, to the season. They just have that one loss, so I think they'll be really trying to challenge now. Whether they, I heard a couple of their players, I'm not sure title challenges is what their goals are, but definitely I think to be right up there and in that top kind of group of teams is where they'd be aiming to be, particularly their good start. And yeah, unfortunately Sligo just haven't had kind of the start they were wanted with just the 1 point so far. But they, in the TV game that they did against Waterford, like they did actually create a lot of opportunities. They just were unfortunate that they couldn't take them, I think. So they're definitely doing right things. It's just not coming off for them. But like in some game, whether it is this weekend or not, I think they're going to end up, a lot of those balls are going to end up in the back of the net because they're definitely, they have the quality to create them. It's just, they just obviously hadn't the finishing touches so far.
Meabh, how good has been? I know because you've watched her. How good has Meabh Williams been?
Oh yeah, she's been like incredible for Waterford. I think between the posts, and I think a lot of their good start to life in the league has been down to that. She's kind of just led with that authority that you need a goalkeeper to do, and as a new team that's difficult too. But she's using her experience there, and in front of her, I thought Lauren Walsh has had a really good start to the season too, alongside Danielle Burke as well. I think it's really kind of they've been able to build off that solid foundation, because if you're not leaking easy goals, then it's a lot easier to build off that. Whereas if you're conceding goals, we all know how hard it is to score, but when you're just leaking goals, then it makes it way more difficult to task. So yeah, she's been really, really good for Wexford, I think, so far.
Let's take a look at the league table before these games.
You missed one game.
Oh, I thought we'd gone on to it there with the Waterford stuff. Cork versus Waterford. Your thoughts on that? Obviously, we've touched on it there a minute ago, but
the Lauren Walsh and Danielle Burke derby.
Yeah,
going back to play their old club. This is spice written all over this weekend, and I'm so curious to see how this game goes. I don't mean to sound bad on Cork City here, but I make Waterford favourites, considering the start of the season, and I wouldn't be shocked if Waterford get another win here. Just while we are talking about Waterford, obviously Lauren Balunu has done her ACL, having played with Cork previously and joined Waterford. Sad news to see that happening, but I wouldn't be surprised if Waterford get 3 points out of this game.
Would you agree with that, Meabh?
Yeah, I think, well, I'd probably be leaning more towards a draw, I think. Although obviously I have been impressed with Waterford, but I think Cork, they always kind of they can put it in up to any team really on their day as well. So it's a tough one to call, but it's definitely going to be an interesting one. But I think it'll be very close. A draw, if not, I think I'll go for a draw with that one.
Meabh, do me a favour. Take your Galway hat off for a second. You've watched a couple of teams this season. If I was to ask you for 2 players this season so far who stood out to you this year, who would they be?
Well, I know we already touched on her, but I do think Meabh Williams has been a standout, and keepers don't usually get the credit they deserve, to be honest. So yeah, I'd probably go for her. I think, I do think Aoibhinn Clancy, in fairness, I've only watched a couple of their games, but I think she has been doing really well with Shells, and she's in a type of environment there where kind of she can come to the fore with their passing game as well. I'm trying to think now off the top of my head. A couple of the Athlone, Izzy Groves as well, I think has been good for Athlone in the middle of midfield. I think she's just kind of had a bit of authority. I think she was, she's had some good kind of battles in there. Maybe not as creative as much as I would have thought, but she's kind of a bit of an enforcer, I think, in there in the middle.
Interesting. She came from London City Lionesses, where Ruth had been before. I think, like one thing we've talked about this year is Lee Farrelly as well. Yeah, the one thing we've talked about this year is the different types of players from different clubs that are impressing. It's not just always the same typical, how would you say, 4 or 5 that we've seen year in, year out. There's a lot more of a bigger spread, and like that's the one that I think we've noticed this year on this show is that we're talking about a lot of different players who maybe previous years we mightn't have talked about. The likes of Kate McCarran scoring the goals for Bowes, Bellavicini and Treaty. There's that many different types of players that we're talking about this year, and I think that's probably the most interesting thing about the league is that we're not just focused on the same sort of teams, or we know the same sort of results are going to come in each week. I think this year it's probably been even more unpredictable than last year, and last year was probably pretty unpredictable.
Yeah, let's take a look at while we talk about the league on the show. Let's take a look at the next tier down, which we mentioned in the social media posts before the show, is the Amateur Cup, and there's a bit of interest in this as well. I think for nearly all parts of the country. You see Turnier Rangers versus Pats CY, Home Farm versus Newbridge Town, Whitehall Rangers versus Colester Donecarney, and those two, Turnier and Whitehall, have kind of dominated this competition for the last little while. Charleville or Bridge Celtic play Newtown down in the Midwest, while Wilton and Douglas Hall will play against each other in the Cork decider. Douglas Hall have been in the final of this in recent years as well. A name you remember from your early days as well, Benfica. They're still going strong. They play Ferns in the, I suppose, Waterford, Wexford region. Galway, Merview United and Salt Hill Devon will find one of them into the last 8 of the competition. While up in the north, surprisingly, the 2 Sligo Leitrim teams have come out of that group. Glenview Stars versus Gertrude and Celtic. I suppose the more established Donegal teams.
Are they Sligo's Leitrim teams? Are they coming from that new league that was set up?
They're coming from the new leagues. They're basically kind of outpaced. They beat Bonagee. I think Gertrude beat Bonagee at the weekend, so that's a big scalp for them. So Bonagee would have been in the final of this as well, I think. Of course,
Bonagee been in the final a couple of times because they've been in the Senior Cup for a couple of times as well, because they played Cork City one year in the Senior Cup, and I think Chris McNulty was the manager at Bonagee.
Yes, he was the manager. Yeah.
And is this just so for me? Is this
final
so? This
four
is
regionalized the FAI. Yeah, it's regionalized into the 6 or 7 different groups, and the leagues are paired together. Where am I? Don't know what I've done there. The groups have it's regionalized, and there's a few more come out of Leinster, obviously, because the numbers are bigger, and it's weighted based on who the with the entries basically. So because the Leinster area get more entries, they get more spaces in the quarterfinal stage. So they'll have 3 teams. But it's great, and the standard is really surprisingly good in certain places, because there's a perception out there that maybe Leinster or Cork are stronger than the rest of the league, and I don't really think that's borne out in the results when these games come to a quarterfinal stage. And of course, win this game, they play a quarterfinal, which is open draw across the whole country, and then they will actually be playing for a place in the first round of the FAI Cup proper. 4 of these teams will play in the FAI first round, which is a huge addition to them. So they'll play the semi-finals and also enter the FAI Cup first round.
The other good thing is then that means there's no bye this year in the FAI Cup first round. It's straight through to 16 teams.
Yeah, because there's 12 and 16, which I kind of liked the bye, because it gave the cup holders a bit of a rest and a weekend off, but it is what it is. Maeve, who would you fancy? Obviously, you have a bit of an eye on Merview and Salt Hill there locally, and more than myself with Glenview and Gertrude. Gertrude, of course, the home of Roisin Malloy. Her sister, quite a handy player, played underage with Sligo, so she might be part of that team as well. But there's a load of players that you probably recognise from being around the league, even particularly in Terranure, Whitehall Rangers. I'm thinking the likes of Linda Douglas has featured with this team before. Ciara Smith has been involved in this before. She obviously had a few spells in the league. There's nearly every team has somebody who you'd recognise a name of, a former international or an underage international or a senior player within the league itself. Have you given any thought to this? Are you featuring for these teams? Have you been approached?
I won't be featuring. I've been approached, all right, but no, just only playing Gaelic at the moment, so that's keeping me busy enough with Salt Hill and Knocknacara. So we're just starting the league at the moment, so busy enough with that, like I said. But no, I think whoever comes out of Merview, Salt Hill, I think that game will actually be really close. But I think whoever comes out of it might, be able to go hopefully on a good cup run. Then at that stage they could really push on. But I think Terranure, they're stacked with quality. Like like I said, a lot of the girls from Underdogs would be involved with Terranure. I think they're Whitehall too, have quality as well. The other teams, to be honest, around the country I wouldn't know as much of, but definitely I think Terranure are probably, I would imagine, they're the favourites, but again, it's hard to know, because I think players kind of tend to move around a bit more as well at that level too.
Speaking of other sports,
Julianne
Russell playing a bit of basketball now. Seems to be doing quite well.
She has in the past. It's not like it's not a new sport for her. So and Cullen have a really good tradition actually of basketball. She's been playing it. Playing it for a while, running marathons as well. But sure, you wouldn't expect.
What level is that? What level is that? Is that top level or is that?
Say that again.
Super League, isn't it? It's national.
I'm not 100% sure, but it is. Excuse me, it is actually. It's still it's a good level, definitely, and she's one of their best players by far.
That's unbelievable.
But she's one of those that we all know that when we were growing up, the person you could hand them a hurl and they'd be the best player in the team straight away, and you're kind of like, oh no, that's Lead from hurling, so I wouldn't hold too much sway on that. But
she was a really good Gaelic footballer as well before her soccer career took off too.
Yeah, absolutely.
All rounder.
Final thing before we wrap up for the evening, the under-19s, of course, were in action this week as well. Looked good for a little while against France in terms of a result, but a decent performance. Ended up just getting pipped at the post, but promising for the future?
Yeah, I think so, but it's always kind of it seems to be the same old story, unfortunately, when we get to that level. We usually push them that close, and then just quality in the end. It's disappointing when we did, especially when we went ahead. I think ahead of half time against France, you really have high expectations. And the unfortunate thing, I suppose, that's the end of the international career for a lot of those players. Not just the end of their underage international career, but if we're being honest about it, it's the end of their international career. Unfortunately, completely, because of the statistics don't lie in that. There's going to be very few of them who are going to make it through to the senior team. Hopefully, that'll change in the future. Hopefully, like I said, there might be another step in between the under 19s and senior. But it's the reality of it, I suppose, at this stage. But unfortunate when they did really well, I think, to get that far.
Maybe we've already run out of time, and you're lighting the fire under Aaron. We can't get him going at all on that.
Just on this though. Like, I'll keep it short. I've already kept you over the hour. I knew exactly what I was doing. For me, there's probably you could probably see 4 or 5 of these who could eventually play senior football. And like the biggest thing in terms of these players is like a lot of these would have had Euros experience last year. I think there was 9 or 10 of the squad were back again this year after having, and they put it up to France. They got tired at the end and ran out of legs for me, but they put it up to France for a long period, and they made France have to work really hard. And I think they can be really proud of themselves. Even it didn't work out on the day, but it was a great effort from the girls.
Yeah, I think as well as maybe an interim national team, I think, and more than the Carla Ward's comments, if we improve the League of Ireland, that's a natural home for these girls as well. Meabh, thanks for joining us. Very great to get your insight. And of course, Aaron, who was at the 2 international games over the last couple of days as well. It's back to league action. Where are you going to be this weekend? We hopefully will either see you at a game or we'll be back with you again next week. Talk to you then.